Good evening, Chicago, and viewers from all over the world. I'm Jerry Vassilatos, and tonight we're going to explore some Windy City stories that are so disturbing, so terrifying, that you may want to watch with the doors locked, the curtains drawn, and with the holy water close, while you judge for yourself their believability, and then try to tell yourself wherever you may be, it couldn't happen here. How's that for production values? Item: man wielding samurai sword fatally shot by police officials. DeKalb police responded to a call from a woman who said a man had been drinking and threatened to kill her with the sword early Monday. Item: John Wayne Gacy, victim number 5, identified by Cook County Sheriff. Item: Cook County Democratic Party Chair Tony Preckwinkle has removed Ghoulish City Council Alderman James Gardner from Democratic Party committee posts over boorish, obnoxious, repugnant, rude, and vulgar conduct. Item: Chicago paranormal investigator captures short, unexplained figure at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Mayor Lightfoot declares state of emergency. Good evening, everybody. I'm Jerry Vassilatos, filling in for Carl Kolchak tonight on our very special Halloween episode of Chicago Corner. We have some very incredible guests on tonight that I'm going to bring on in a moment, along with my co-host, Kit Cabello. I want to welcome you all. I want to share a toast to Halloween. I wanted this to be a special show. It was either going to be Carl Kolchak or a Ghostbuster, but I don't have my proton pack, so I'm going with Carl. So for those of you who don't know The Night Stalker, it starred Darren McGavin in the 1970s. I grew up on The Night Stalker. Carl Kolchak was a Chicago-based reporter who was always stumbling in to paranormal activities throughout the city. He only lasted one season, but he encountered creatures from aliens to a werewolf to vampires to moss monsters. And as a kid, I loved Kolchak. I always kind of wanted to be him when I grew up. My life took a different path, but it's Halloween. So I have the opportunity tonight to come to you as Carl Kolchak and host this very special segment of Chicago Corner along with our very special guests we will introduce in a moment. But in the meantime, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mr. Kit Cabello.
Yes, my friends. And the thing is, Halloween is here. The spirits are around. They are angry and walking around. Be safe this Halloween. And if I can indulge my fellow host who is in charge of this, if I can say a line from my favorite Halloween movie. There's a quote that I would love to say. It's a little bit long, but not too long. It'll take only just two minutes, but it says everything about Halloween. It's from Halloween 3. That's right, the one that didn't have Michael Myers in it. Halloween. You thought no further than the strange custom of having your children wear masks and go out begging for candy. It was the start of the year in our old Celtic lands, and we'd been waiting in our houses of wattles and clay. The barriers would be down, you see, between the real and the unreal, and the dead might be looking in to sit by our fires of turf. Halloween, the festival of Samhain. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red with the blood of animals and children. It was part of our world, our craft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment. It's not so different now. It's time again. In the end, we don't decide these things, you know. The planets do. They're in alignment, and it's time again. The world's going to change tonight, my friends. I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And happy Halloween.
You got me spooked, Kit. That's a great prelude to the two guests that I'm going to bring in. Now, everybody knows that Ghostbusters Afterlife is coming out in November. And I think that that's probably what people think of when they think of paranormal investigators and ghost chasers and spook hunters. But you know what? There's actually a very serious side to paranormal investigations. And I've got two great guests on with us tonight. I'm going to introduce them both. We have Mr. David Olson and Mr. Matt Perry. And these gentlemen are with the Chicago Paranormal Investigation Team here in the city of Chicago. And although we were going to have fun tonight and talk about Chicago legends later in the show, like Resurrection Mary and the Chicago Mothman and the Lincoln Park graveyard that is supposedly exists because bodies were never moved after the Great Chicago Fire and the city was rebuilt. These gentlemen are going to share their experiences with us hunting the paranormal in Chicagoland from a very, very serious place. And when I say serious, guys, so this is, let's see, let me share the screen here. This is their website, right? And
yes.
This is their mobile unit.
Yeah,
these
I'm very
guys,
proud of that.
These guys aren't screwing around. This is their mobile command center when they are out in the field investigating paranormal activities. And I thought that this is just like incredible. The seriousness with which these gentlemen come to us, I'm sure also from a scholarly background. But I would like to hear, first of all, thank you for joining us tonight, David and Matt. Let me start with Dave. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you, and then I'll also have Matt interject. Maybe the two of you can share telling us a little bit about yourselves, how you found yourself getting into paranormal investigations, and we'll kind of build from there.
All right. My career, I'm a Chicago police officer. I've been an officer. I'm going to hit 30 years December 2nd. And with the paranormal, it all started when I was young. I had a lot of experiences. I believe I'm a little bit on the sensitive side. Not like a psychic medium, but it seems like I could sometimes hear, feel. And I had that as I got older. And once I became an officer, I got a little more skeptical, but stuff was still happening. And in 2008, I told myself I'm going to buy some equipment. And once I started documenting unexplained voices, and I'm like, oh my God, there's stuff out there. And then in 2009, I started a team with guys like me, other officers, a few civilians, and then like Matt, a Chicago fireman, and which gives the team a lot of credibility with his background.
Matt, how about yourself?
So yeah, I've been a fireman for almost 23 years. And I got into the paranormal, just, watching the shows like that are on constantly on, whatever Discovery. And I'm watching this stuff thinking, there's gotta be something to this, but I'm just not sure. Like I'm a total skeptic when it comes to this. I want to see like 2 or 3 different pieces of evidence to prove something is there or not there or whatever. So just by luck, I was out shaking a boot. I think it was for like burn camp or something like that. And Dave drives by with that command center and a Chicago police shirt on. And I'm like, well, what kind of weird unit is this? And
we're going to get to that.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah. I just thought he was like a special unit with the Chicago police. And he goes, well, I don't know if you believe this or not, but yeah, I'm a paranormal investigator. And I'm like, wow. Like, so we had about 3 minutes till the light turned green that I had a chance to talk to him. And when I got back to the firehouse, I started, Googling him, trying to figure out, what's this guy's deal. And I sent him an email that night. I sent him an email that night. I said, I'd love to tag along on an investigation, and kind of told him I kind of did different construction projects for about 20 years, plus with my knowledge of homes just from being on the job, just going into thousands of homes. I could add a lot to the team as far as like trying to debunk what when things might happen, a door closes or something goes bump in the night.
So we've got this mobile command unit. Dave, how do you put this together? Where do you start? So you get it. So obviously you're, I mean, I think that we all come to this, and I'm going to acknowledge this too. I am a skeptic, but I want to believe. I'm not bringing you guys on tonight to make light of any of this stuff. I've never found evidence. I think I've maybe had one kind of semi-paranormal experience in my life, and I'll talk about that later. But hard evidence is what we all want. So when you decide you want to be a paranormal investigator, I don't know, is there a formal education? Do you read? You meet with other paranormal investigators? How do you figure out what to put together for this mobile command unit, this mobile investigation unit that you have?
Yeah, you know what? It all started. Well, I kept on visualizing, like with the police department, we had a mobile camera van for the following protesters and stuff. And I'm like, man, that would be awesome, because when I first started, I had like an enclosed 6x12 trailer, and it would take an extra 2 or 3 hours to set up, because now you got to do folding tables, chairs, run wiring. And I'm like, man, it would be nice to have an ambulance that has power. And I already had it visualized how I would want it set up, and it just fell into my lap. And, but yeah, I was doing research beforehand, talked to other investigators in the field, stuff I used on the department, and just looking and reading books and looking at documentaries and on stuff that I might need. But before I bought this, I was already heavily invested in equipment already.
So Dave, you shared a lot of images and videos with me before the show that I can bring up in the window as we talk about this. But
sure.
When did you start? When did you begin paranormal investigating?
I started buying equipment in 2008, and it was all due to my side job. I work on the Dunning grounds, city colleges. I've been with them for 27 years doing security, 2-3 days a week. And I had so many complaints from other officers, retired officers, active officers, housekeeping, engineering, teachers, all experiencing stuff, especially on the midnights. And so I started buying equipment, and I started documenting stuff there. And I'm like, my very first unexplained voice, which is EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. I remember that was in 2009, clear as day. It goes, "What are you doing?" And then about a minute later said, "Get out of here." But that was my first clear Class A EVP, and then I was hooked. And then I really started investing heavily in equipment.
Let's talk first about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, because ironically, when I was conceiving tonight's show, the three major legends in my mind that I've always heard about here in Chicago are Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, the Legend of Resurrection Mary, and the Chicago Mothman. Those are the ones that I'm kind of familiar with. So you have done extensive investigations at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, and you've shared a lot of images with me. So take us down the history of Bachelor's Grove, and as you understand it, and when you first got involved, I guess, staking the cemetery out to capture some of the supernatural phenomena in the photographs that I can also share on screen here.
Correct. Yes. I was talking to other investigators before I went there. It was actually hard to find. I didn't even know where it was located. So I started doing some research and met up with some other investigators out there. And, it goes way back to the early 1800s. It was all farmland. And I guess for the farmers, they had an acre of land they put aside. So they had a place to bury people that started moving in, in the area. And in the 1800s, you had a lot of new settlers coming in from, a lot of them came from New York. You had a lot of Irish, Scottish, English coming in that settled in the area. And I believe that's one of the reasons why they got the nickname Bachelor's Grove. There was a lot of bachelors that ended up settling in that area and picked up that nickname Bachelor's Grove. And but throughout the years, even going in maybe about 1950s and stuff, there's been a lot of claims, and you had a lot of vandalism. You had a lot of satanic worshiping going on, a lot of negative stuff in that area. And even back in the day, there's rumors that Al Capone did some business there, dump bodies, dump weapons. I don't think that was ever proven, but there's a lot of talk about that. And but I tell you, there's so many claims of activity there, and I've been there about 6 times. And each time I was able to either capture unexplained voices. I've been lucky with a few, photo evidence of an apparition, and possibly, I've really never put this out there, but tonight I'm going to do it. They talk about a phantom house or a phantom structure, and I think I might have captured that, and that was in the location right off the cemetery where the plots of. Sometimes you could see still areas of where they had foundations, on the land. But
let me share a little bit of what we read from the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery and Settlement Research Center, which I guess there's a research center that exists there. Many have seen it for themselves, and many have heard its legends. For some, it is a place of happiness where family would once have picnics and swim in its pond, remembering their lost loved ones. For others, it is a place of sorrow and amazement, where people see balls of light floating among them and human forms appear, only to vanish before their eyes, which, Dave, I believe you've got some imagery of. Come take a tour of one of the most talked about cemeteries in the world. Discover for yourself how much there is to know and cherish about this most desecrated and historical cemetery in all of Illinois. Learn what kind of people are buried here and how they helped form the surrounding communities. Even find out what you can do to help save one of the most historical landmarks in Illinois. That's bachelorsgrove.com. And there are some photographs on their page showing settlement history, cemetery records, cemetery directions, and the paranormal history. Now, going into paranormal history, Mr. Olson, share with us some of, and I've got the photographs here that I can share on screen. So tell us about maybe your first experience up through your most recent experience at Bachelor's Grove.
My first experience, it was maybe 6-7 years ago, about 7 years ago, I would say. And I was going to meet a few investigators there, but I got there early. I came right from work, brought some gear, and headed out there. And it was so hot that day. I'll never forget it. I was sweating like a pig, and I'm like, man, I'm thinking to myself, I wish I had air conditioning or something. And I tell you, I swear to God, moments later, it's like someone clicked a switch on, and I actually had the chills. I was cold. And I had a camera set up. I had some meters, a digital voice recorder, and I was taking full spectrum photos, hoping I would capture a possible piece of evidence, an apparition or something. And something grabbed my leg, grabbed my ankle. And in the video, you could see me jump up, and I start saying, "Did someone just grab my ankle? Did you grab my ankle?" And I get an unexplained whispering voice, an EVP, saying, "I did." And so that was my very first experience. And I thought that was pretty cool. I got a direct answer. And then I caught light anomalies there before, a lot of unexplained voices, a lot of EVPs. But my best ones were an apparition. I was just taking photos. And when you take photos, it's best to take several at a time so you can compare them. And usually if it's something paranormal, it's only going to be in one, maybe two the most. But I captured this unexplained figure. It's pretty short. It almost reminds me of maybe like a Native American possibly, but you can see its arms crossed. And usually when I take pictures like that, I'll have video cameras behind me to show what I'm doing. And if I possibly have a piece of evidence, I could go back to the video camera and stuff around it, to compare it. But
let's bring up some of the video. I've got this video, so let's look at some of the evidence, because I'm going to bring up a video file from my desktop. Hopefully it streams through all right. I'm bracing myself. We don't have any streaming issues, but let me open this. If anything happens with a technical glitch, I'll bring us back, but let me see how this ends up sharing on the screen here, since I'm bringing up a video file. Okay, here we go. Here's the video file, so I'm going to play it.
You around me.
Is it playing? It's playing.
I really do.
I don't think we're getting audio on it, though.
Hot.
Yeah, I can hear.
I can hear it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
The chills.
Yeah, I got the chills. And I'm taking photos.
Are you touching my ankle? Is someone touching me right here? What were you? I felt you. Are you touching my ankle? Is someone touching me right here? Is someone touching me right here?
All right, so it's pretty impressive evidence there. But I've got even more though. I've got even better evidence here. Let me take this one off, and I'll bring up another video file that's got highlights along with photographs that stills that you shared with me
Right.
separately.
And like I say, I usually take maybe 8 to 10 at a time so I could compare them.
So if you want to talk us through this as it go, I can't hear it on my end, but apparently the audio is going out. So I'm going to bring this up, and if there's any commentary you want to make as we're watching it, please feel free. Let's see where the video is. Is it coming in? Okay, it's uploading. There we go. All right, here we go.
Okay, this is a full-bodied apparition I captured in Englewood. Matt was there also, but I was in the room alone at the time. And
Dave, you still there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Have we had a streaming issue? Hopefully Dave will come back in.
Yeah. You can hear me, Matt?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay. This is from a neighborhood in Englewood in Chicago. And this is a full-bodied apparition that circled, was standing in front of me. I didn't even know it was there. I was in the room alone. Everyone else was in the command center. It seems like it's frozen.
Hang on, we'll get right back to it. But if anyone who can hear us right now, so here's the thing, guys. Dave and Matt. So the thing is, like, before we were able to get Jerry back in, I got a couple of questions I would like to ask you. So, because
sure.
we'll deal with that. But in this day and age of social media, especially now, because there's the early infancy of the internet, where of course people were posting a lot of their own ghost stories or catching paranormal activity on social media. Now in this day and age, I mean, everyone's able to upload things on social media so fast.
Right.
What are some of your initial thoughts on, again, a lot of these videos becoming so popular on social media? Jerry, we'll get back to you, but I just wanted to ask my two questions.
That's fine. I'm going to see if I can get the video queued. I think it was a buffering issue, so sorry about that.
Yeah, sure. But I want to get your gentlemen's.
Yeah, let them answer, and then we'll run the video. At least I've got it queued, and I know we don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some interesting stuff that you wouldn't normally have seen. I remember there was like a security footage caught in like Texas of like a apparition walking across a parking lot, and a couple others that I can't really think of right now. But I mean, just the fact that we're here, we can see that going on, knowing that like before you'd have to like scour the internet, the limited internet, or archives and everything just to find that. And then I think that actually made like national news because it was circulated on social media. So it's definitely kind of opened up the window to be able to find this kind of information a lot easier. I mean, you search paranormal on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, you're going to find anything you want. It's just, it's a matter of, do you believe it or not? So, we try to, when we put our stuff out there on YouTube, we try to really make sure that we kind of look at all angles, look at all the evidence that we captured. And then even then, like, we still have conversations about it, about, what do you think? Should we post this? Should we not? And then some of it's a little iffy, and then other stuff is just like, wow, yeah, we absolutely have to post that, just to get it out there.
All right. And Dave, your thoughts on social media, especially is how more a lot of these videos are right now becoming prevalent. I mean, because in the early infancy of the internet, let's say 2008, you'd occasionally get some videos like this posted on YouTube. But now, because of everything and its accessibility, what are your thoughts on, again, so many of these videos being circulated of seeing paranormal activity or something that doesn't, I guess, fit the social norm of what we're used to seeing?
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the shows out there now. You got Paranormal Caught on Camera, and it seems to be all these like YouTube videos and personal videos people capture. I mean, it's everywhere, but I'm still very skeptical. I mean, what I try to do before we post something, I do my best. I mean, I go through every video, every picture, compare it, and then like these photos here, I'll either have sent away or I'll go to a college and have the photography instructor go through everything and give me his best answer on what he thinks. if he could explain it away, or if he's left with a question mark that, what, this is so cool. I think you got something. So before I go out posting anything, or my team does, that's what we try to do, just so we give it our best effort at what we put out there is legit. But, there's a lot of cool things out there, out on the net, on YouTube and stuff, but I'm still skeptical on a lot of that stuff.
It's always important because
let's share some of the video. I mean, I think that now that I've got the video up and it's not going to crap out, let's run it and have Dave and Matt comment on some of this stuff.
All right, this is the apparition. I have a security camera behind it. You can see the circles, the glare.
So yeah, that was
image. Go ahead, man. Okay, this one is a cemetery. I actually heard this thing walking and stepping on acorns.
Yeah. If you notice the see-through legs, you can see the baseboard through the legs.
Well, that's in the other photo. Now we're. This is a cemetery. There's a medium there, and that's none of us standing next to the medium. That's a full-bodied apparition. That's not us. And I actually captured its voice, a male voice speaking to us. And the figure on the left is a medium talking. He's like, Dave, grab your camera. A man just came out of a brush. He's starting to talk to me. And so he's asking questions, and I have it on audio and video of this thing answering. Now this is, they believe a soldier crouching down in a shooting position. There's a lot of soldiers buried out there. It's maybe hard to see in this video, but I've sent it to reenactors that do like Civil War reenactments, and they say this guy, the way he's crouched down and has the arm up, it's the perfect position for a soldier shooting back in the day with that rifle.
What kind of cameras are capturing these images? Obviously, we're seeing something that I would only be able to describe as I know it's not infrared, but it seems to be some kind of
combination. It's using IR, infrared, and UV lighting, type of a full spectrum lighting. And the theory is they believe the spirit world's in that spectrum of lighting. And I've been very lucky using it, so I kind of agree with that. But this subject here actually turned on and off my flashlight. Oh, now we're going to Bachelor's Grove. If you see that image all the way to the left with the arms crossed, that figure's not there. It's none of us.
I think it'll go in closer in a moment.
Yes. Yeah, it's right next to the right of the tree. There it is with the arms crossed. It's very short,
see it.
but it's
Right
not
there.
us.
Yeah. I've heard something
then,
interesting it related to the whole idea of the spectrum of what we can see and what's in other spectrums we can't see.
I think the video
the reason
it's
cats
not coming through as a good quality, Jerry.
Oh, it's not? Okay, it's probably a buffering issue. How about now?
Let's see.
So what I've heard is that the reason cats were worshipped as gods in ancient Egypt is because cats are supposedly able to see through this spectrum that our human eyes can't, and possibly sense spirits around us.
I do believe
little bit of
I do believe
trivia.
animals. Yes, I do believe
too.
that.
Oreo's not here to confirm or deny. I think he's hiding in the other room because he hears all the voices. My cat, who's usually joining us. But yeah, I mean, when we talk about this light spectrum of what we can see and perceive and what we can't, I do think animals are much more sensitive to the spirit world, supernatural world that we're not able to tune into.
I agree.
Is the video running okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the Brumner Mansion. We captured a woman in an old-time dress in the mirror. We believe it was possibly the Miss Brumner, who originally built the house.
Where was this mansion?
This is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a bed and
Okay.
breakfast. Tom and
I was going to say
Julie,
I was curious if it was in Chicago. Maybe it was Resurrection Mary wandering around. But if it's in Milwaukee, I don't know that she gets that far unless she hitched a ride.
Milwaukee, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can see it's.
I think we lost. So now
this
tell
is
us
where I
about
got-
this. This is interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I got. I didn't even know this was possible until I experienced something myself. That's when I become a believer. But this is a house in Appleton, Wisconsin, that I got attacked twice, and I tell you, this scratch here that appeared, I was only in the house 20 seconds. I just said hello. I'm standing in the living room, basically, the kitchen to my right, bedrooms ahead in front of me, and something just rips me open, puts a welt by my eye, and then makes my ear bleed, and a deep scratch down my neck, right
That's
in front
creepy,
of
man.
everyone's eyes.
That's like right
Yeah,
out of
that
one of
got
these.
me nervous.
And I'm gonna continue this since I can't hear on this end. I'm assuming there's audio that I don't want to talk over, but let it run here.
So this is the Congress Theater in Chicago on Milwaukee Avenue.
Ah,
And so
Oh,
these
wow.
are
I've been in there. That's that's a yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm not
That's
surprised.
nice.
That's
All
one
right.
of the most haunted locations I've been in. So
Wow.
if you watch the video, I have video of this, and it's you can tell it's intelligent the way it walks. And people talk about colored orbs. Here's a blue one that looks like a big Easter egg, blue in color. And we got a lot of activity in this area in the balcony and outside hallway. And this is unexplained. This is outside, unexplained light anomaly. It's like for a second, and then it goes away. This is in near Milwaukee. And this is cool. This is in Kewanee, Wisconsin, the Karsten Inn. Unexplained figure in this hallway. You can see the Connect system's picking up an image of, we believe, a small boy. And like these other images are from a cemetery. We had stuff going in and out of a grave, a tombstone. These light anomalies that the thermal imaging picked up and the night vision camera. These ball of lights coming out of the tombstone and back and forth.
Dave, what would you say are some of the most notable haunted locations in Chicago? You mentioned the Congress Theater.
Right. That is very haunted. I've been there 3 times, and I tell you, I got so much activity there, from a lot of voices to something turning on and off my flashlight on command. But that's very haunted. I tell the Lincoln Park Zoo is very haunted. We were lucky enough to do some investigations there.
Tell us about the Lincoln Park Burial Ground. And really quickly, have you been to the Congress Hotel? That's supposedly very haunted also.
I've been there, but I've never investigated there. I was trying to set up with the owner, to be able to investigate, because I'm not so much. I'm not saying nothing's wrong with it, but I'm not so much into going in tours, because it's a lot of time invested, and I like investigating in a controlled environment, because then if you have too much going on with other people, you just never know for sure the voice you captured if it's someone else. So, but yeah, I've been in there, but I've never investigated the Congress Hotel. But a few of my investigators been in there overnight and captured stuff. But yeah, that's very haunted. The Lyric Opera House is very haunted. You got the Camp Douglas grounds on the south side. That's very haunted. It's everywhere. It's not just one certain location. I bet if I investigated my house right now, I'll get stuff. But
I think it was Oreo
sure.
art.
I'm sorry.
Someone in the live chat says they saw something move behind me. It's probably one of my cats.
Oh,
Don't try to spook me, Art.
But there is something too I want to bring up that I found interesting. A long time ago, I did a tour of the Chicago Theater, and of course, it's a famous building. I urge everyone that gets a chance to check out Chicago, definitely go on a tour of it. But when we were doing a tour, there was a light on the stage, and when I asked that person who was giving the tour, why is there a single light on the stage? Apparently, at least according to tradition, and correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently there's a single light on the stage that when the theater's empty, it's to ward away any kind of evil spirits or any kind of ghosts. Is that similar in any other kind of theater locations that you've done paranormal activities in?
Yeah, I think the Lyric Opera House did something very similar to that, if I recall. But The Congress, no, the Congress Theater, but yeah, you get people with certain superstitions, like with Resurrection Mary leaving the bar, Chet Melody's Lounge. They leave a Bloody Mary for her. A lot of people, do have
Whoa!
superstitions like that. Whoa!
Whoa! Oh my God!
She's alive.
God, we've been hacked by the
Hi.
ghost of Resurrection Mary.
Hey, Mary.
I thought I was going to be hanging out a little while longer, so I grabbed
like
myself
dancing?
a Bloody Mary. I
There you
always
go.
feel like dancing. Dave, do you want to dance?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to dance with me?
Of course.
No.
Dave,
No.
Dave, have you been to Resurrection Cemetery or done any investigations there and run across Mary before?
I've been by there along Archer Road. Archer Road itself is very haunted, but yeah, it has a lot of history, and it goes back to Archer Road with Native Americans. But I've been there, but
That's
I've
so
never
scary.
investigated Resurrection. I'm sorry?
That's so scary. I don't want to go by Archer Avenue in that case. That sounds so frightening. Would you
I'll
give
take
me
care
a
of it.
ride home, Dave?
Of course. You want that
No.
demon address?
I
or you
think that
want,
we've got an exclusive here. I'm really looking forward to talking more with Mary, but let's not lose track of what we were talking about, the Lincoln Park Burial Ground, which I understand was the result of bodies not being moved after the Great Chicago Fire because of the reconstruction. Now, there are some rumors that Mrs. O'Leary's cow was not responsible for the Great Chicago Fire. I have it on good authority that there was this guy named Pegleg Sullivan who may or may not have been in that barn. And oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, we've been hacked by Pegleg.
Who's that? Who's there?
Peg Leg, my arch nemesis. We meet again for the last time.
That sounds like Cabello. Is that Cabello?
It's Cabello.
I can't
Pegleg,
even tell. Am I frozen here?
It looks like you're frozen.
It
Absolutely.
looks like I'm
Oh, we lost him. Let's hope that Pegleg can come back in. But Dave, tell us.
It's very cold here too.
And Mary's here. Let's hear a little bit more about. I'm jumping around here, but I'm going to leave it to Dave now and Matt to tell us about Lincoln Park and the history there.
Yeah, there's a lot of history.
Boy.
I had no idea about, and the same thing with Matt, that it had so much history, but it goes back. I want to believe, I think there was 4 cemeteries that kind of butted up with each other. You had the Pottersfield, you had the City Cemetery, you had, I think it was a Catholic cemetery and one other one. And, you had all the disease going on back then. So they wanted to start moving the bodies. They thought it would be a good idea because the bodies were so close to the water supply.
This is the guy here to blame. I think it's him.
sure. Blame Pegleg. Every time something weird happens in Chicago, you always blame the Pegleg guy. I don't know what that's about.
Because
but
it's
that
always
sounds
you.
like some blatant discrimination to me.
Yeah,
It's always you, Peg Leg, buddy. Trust me on it. I know it. It was you the whole time.
all the
My
shenanigans.
mother always told me, don't trust a man with a peg leg.
Yeah, well, not every person with the peg leg is the same.
I can attest to that. So Dave,
you had other cemeteries opening up, in the city limits. So they started moving bodies, and then the Chicago Fire happened, and it burned up all the wooden markers. You had people that lost everything left. You had new people coming in, and the bodies were just forgot about. There's anywhere from 10 to 13,000 bodies still out there on the grounds. And then add in, Matt, if I'm missing anything. But not only do you have all the bodies, but back in the day, the World's Fair time, you had a 4-story bridge, and I had no idea about this, that went over the lagoon. It was one way from the people in Lincoln Park to get to the horse and buggy carriage route, like towards Lakeshore Drive. And it was well known for suicides. You even have postcards saying suicide.
I think I missed everything because
is there a delay?
there might be a buffering delay there. I went on a ghost tour of Lincoln Park, and I'd never heard that before. And there's a mausoleum there, not far from where the Chicago Historical Society is situated, which I guess is probably one of the most prominent markers that's been left from that time.
Yes, I think that's the only thing that was left.
Have you done any investigations in Lincoln Park?
Yeah, the zoo itself. Yes, I was lucky enough. We captured evidence. What seems to be really haunted is the ladies' bathroom in the Lions house.
That's got it.
Yeah,
That makes sense. That makes sense. If you've ever been in the ladies' bathroom in the Lion's house, you know.
Hey, Matt, are you there? Matt, are you frozen? Or are you there?
He might be frozen, but it's
yeah. Unfortunately,
So the Lion's house.
We'll keep his video up as long as, hopefully he can reconnect and join us in the conversation.
Okay. And then the Apes house is very haunted. We captured EVPs in the Ape house. The Cafe Brower, very haunted. And then you had an administrative building that actually is very haunted. We captured a lot of voices out of there. So the whole grounds, not only do you have the Suicide Bridge, you have the bodies on the ground from the old cemetery, but you had all the gangster stuff going back in the day. Well, the North Side gang, and this, and the Irish gang, and then you had the Al Capone, the Italian gang. A lot of stuff, and there's rumors that's, in the lagoon there might have been bodies dumped. So, and then you have St. Valentine's Massacre, only a few blocks away from there. So a lot of stuff going on.
What about now? You suffered some scratches on that one investigation that you went on. Have you encountered any other situations where, I don't know, like it involved demonic possession or other people who were traumatized by what spirits or specters may have been in the different locations that you've been called to report on or investigate?
There's two that I would say possibly could have been demonic, or something evil, but most of them are just spirits, earthbound spirits like you and I that just, never moved on. But there's two locations. One of the locations where I got attacked, scratched, something wanted to do me harm there. And I believe whatever was there was negative. But there's another house near Bachelor's Grove that I investigated, that I got visited by something dark. This is the first time something like this ever happened to me, where I got called by the client, and she was telling me about the activity in the house, and if I would be available to investigate. Before I said yes, 2 nights in a row, I had this dark black mass standing in front of the bed. I think it was they're warning me, if I take this, something bad's going to happen. So I couldn't get it out of my mind. I didn't feel right. So I called 2 psychic mediums at different times that I use. They're out of Arizona now. But the one, even before I said anything, she goes, "Dave, you already were warned. You were visited already." And I'm like, how the hell does she know this? I didn't even tell her anything yet. And she goes, "Dave, don't do this. This is going to bring nothing but negativity to you and your family." And so I talked to the team. I'm like, and she was right. It came to me and it warned me. And she described it, something that came from Bachelor's Grove, that she called it was human form, but then it would drop down to 4 legs. And she called it more of like a jackal of some type. But whatever it was negative. And so I talked to the team. I'm like, hey, we never said no to an investigation, but this is what I'm being told. And, of course, I want to be able to document this stuff. I don't want to run away from it. But if it's going to cause negativity to my family, I had a little one, really young at the time, maybe 3 years old. And, I don't want to cause anything bad to the house. So I talked to a second medium just to confirm it. She said the same thing. She goes, "Dave, don't take the case." And so I called the client and explained everything. I said, "I'm so sorry, but this one, I think we're going to have to pass on." And I explained why and everything. And then a few days later, the second medium called me up and she said, "Dave, that black mass, whatever was there, is gone." She's like, "You take the case, you'll be fine." and so I did, and everything worked out. But that one got me nervous. That scared me because I could actually feel it, and it actually entered my house and was showing itself to me. I never had that happen.
It's one thing to go on these ghost tours in Chicago, as I have, and again, from the skeptic's point of view, they walk you through Lincoln Park and they give you these little devices to kind of sense where there might be electric or spectral activity, and
Right.
you're prone to thinking, yeah, okay, this is like kid stuff. But I got to tell you, the reason I wanted to have you guys on tonight was because after looking at your website and seeing so many of the investigations that you've gone and gotten involved in, I know that, and just the stories as well as the imagery that you've shared here tonight. Not to steal from another show, but the truth is out there. There is evidence. There's certainly a preponderance of evidence, as you guys have. Oh, look who just joined us. Are you seeing spooks and specters tonight, Oreo? What do you have to say? This is the guy. So let me tell you something about Oreo here, as we're talking about specters and ghostly activities. I live in a 2-flat that was left to me by my grandmother. She left the 2-flat to my brother and I. It's been in our family for a long time. Now they say that cats generally do not meow unless they're in the presence of us, humans. They're trying to communicate with us. At night, when I'm in my bedroom sleeping, little Oreo is in the kitchen in the dark, meowing, meowing, meowing. There's nobody there. And my other cats, Selena and Sylvester, have also done this in the past. And it's not distress. They've eaten. They've got their water. And for the longest time, I've always wondered, what is this about? Because they don't meow unless they're trying to communicate with us. And I realized, oh my God, are they seeing that spectral plane that we can't, and perhaps seeing the spirit of my grandmother in the kitchen? Because I was very close to her.
Possibility. Yeah.
And I got to wonder. I mean, I don't have the true evidence other than my cats talking to somebody. But it does lead you to wonder, as we talked earlier, if animals are tuned into a more supernatural plane and have senses that we don't. And they might be chattering with my grandmother, haunting the kitchen, and I can't see her.
I tell you that there's, I work currently at O'Hare Airport. I have enough time on a job where I was able to get out there. But I talked to a lot of the canine guys, the canine trainers that, as of now, it's going to be moving because it's under construction. But as of now, they work on the grounds of where Flight 191 went down back in '79.
Oh, ooh, that's creepy.
Oh yeah, I've been on the land. I've been on the spot, and they talk about their dogs. The German Shepherds that are trained, they'll be growling at nothing. They'll be at a doorway or something, and like in an attack mode, and there's nothing there. But there's a lot of claims on the grounds from legit sources of stuff going on. From footsteps to lights flickering on and off, and all that area is fenced in and razor wire. They'll get knocking on the trailer doors, and there's no one there. No one could get on that property, so it's a lot going on there.
The area at O'Hare has got some other haunted activity. Well, I wouldn't say haunted, paranormal activity. In regards to the last Chicago Mothman sighting was out at O'Hare Airport. And we're going to talk about that in a while. But in the meantime, since she has been so kind to grace us with her presence tonight, let's talk a little bit about Resurrection Mary and maybe get some of the facts from her. What is truth and what is not? Mary, I'm going to have you. I'm going to get into talking with you also, but I want to just to start with. I want to share a little bit from this particular article about Resurrection Mary, which you can agree with or debunk, my dear, since I'm very, very glad that you broke into our stream tonight.
I mean, what do I know? Like I might be able to answer some questions, but I just, I'm just a regular girl.
Well, gee, Resurrection Mary, the thing is, before you start answering a little bit more about your stories, there is somebody who I think you would like to hang out with. Her name is Kira, and she runs this thing called Comfy Fitness. You might be able to like her. I think you would get along with her quite well.
Does she have a car?
Yeah. Why are you asking?
Because I might need a ride home.
That's not going to happen.
I don't know if that's a good idea, Mary.
That's not going to happen. I don't think so. No.
Let's share with our audience a little bit of Mary's history. This comes to us from The Reader, and this was published in 2018 by Edward McClelland, another journalist in paranormal activities. Just southwest of Chicago on Archer Avenue in Justice, Illinois, across the street from Resurrection Cemetery, is a bar called Chet's Melody Lounge. Chet's is a classic roadside tavern with a pool table, a jukebox, a popcorn machine, and a large clientele of bikers. But Chet's has an unusual tradition. Every Sunday, the staff leaves a Bloody Mary at the end of the bar for a ghost. The ghost's name is Resurrection Mary, and she's haunted this stretch of Archer since the 1930s when she picked up young men dancing to the big bands at the O. Henry Ballroom. An old South Sider named Vince was still telling his Resurrection Mary story to paranormal investigators half a century after it happened. When he did, he sounded just as haunted as he'd been the night he met the ghost. Before he went out dancing that evening, Vince put on his favorite suit, a double-breasted gray number with squared-off shoulders and his most colorful tie, red with Hawaiian hula girls and grass skirts. He cruised Archer Avenue with the top down on his Chevy Cabriolet. The night was warm, and he'd slicked back his hair with enough Brill cream to keep the wind from mussing it. The O. Henry Ballroom was going to be jumping as it always was on Saturdays.
I love the O. Henry Ballroom. So
you still go there?
Well, I don't think it's called O. Henry anymore, but I definitely still go out dancing all the time.
Well, it sounds like you get around, Mary, because inside the ballroom, Vince spent the first half hour downing enough Cuba Libres and smoking enough Lucky Strikes to work up the courage to ask a girl for a dance. By the time the band got started on Jumpin' at the Woodside, he was in a bold state of mind. Spotting a pretty blonde girl in a white dress, he said, as casually as he could manage, "Hey, it ain't right to stand still for Count Basie. Why don't we cut the rug on this one?" The girls smiled, and they joined the jitterbugging throng on the parquet floor. The band played a few more fast numbers, Boogie Woogie and Jeepers Creepers. So Vince didn't get a chance to talk to his partner.
Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Oh, it's one of my favorites.
He didn't. Sometimes girls asked what he did for a living. He was a bookkeeper at the Union Stockyards. Even though he didn't work anywhere near the slaughterhouse, that gave some girls the willies. Let's jump ahead here. When the band segued into Begin the Begin, Vince was finally able to get close to his partner. Her name was Mary, and she lived, she said, on Damon Avenue in the Brighton Park neighborhood. That wasn't far from where Vince lived, in the house he shared with his parents, something else he didn't like to tell the girls. As they slowed down, he noticed for the first time the girl's hands were cold, her skin brittle. Mary seemed to notice that he noticed it, so he made what he hoped was a lighthearted remark. "Cold hands mean you have a warm heart." Mary smiled, and they danced together for the rest of the evening. After the final number, Vince offered Mary a ride home. Her place was just straight up Archer. But after they had driven north for a few miles, Mary insisted he pull the car over outside the locked gates of Resurrection Cemetery, the graveyard of Chicago's Polish community. Vince was baffled, but he complied. Mary opened the door and stepped out onto the roadside. "I have to go, and you can't follow me," she said. When she walked towards the gates, she laid a hand on the iron chain that bound the gates together and vanished. Vince spent the rest of the night driving his Chevy up and down Archer Avenue, looking for a blonde girl in a white dress. He drove until dawn, and then when the cemetery gates opened, he drove through the rows of tombstones engraved with crosses and angels and names such as Butkowski and Guadzia and Petrzik. He was impelled not simply by the mystery of having seen a ghost, but by the hope that the girl he had danced with was not a ghost. You heartbreaker. That he could dance with her once again on some future night. Checking no sight of Mary, he decided to finally drive to the address she had given him. Before they got out of the car, it was a brick bungalow on a street on nearly identical houses separated by concrete gangways a few feet wide. Only the adornments on the porches and the yards, an American flag, a statue of a virgin, and a half bathtub differentiated the dwellings. Vince rang the doorbell. His eyes were red with sleeplessness. His dark beard had not been shaven for a day. His hair had fallen loose over his forehead. The middle-aged woman who answered the door looked startled by the young caller's dishevelment. She looked even more startled when Vince asked, "Is Mary home?" "Mary doesn't live here anymore," said the woman, who looked old enough and enough like Mary to be her mother. "Mary died in a car accident 4 years ago." "Who are you?" "I knew Mary in high school," Vince lied. It was the only plausible story for why he would have been unaware of her death. And you didn't know? I went to college downstate after I graduated, he said. That much was true. He had just attended Illinois State University in Normal. I just moved back to Chicago. Looking past the woman who was still blocking the doorway, Vince spied a framed photo resting atop a piano in the front room. It was the girl he had danced with the night before, an ever youthful face, never to age, the face of a ghost.
Mary, you broke his heart.
You got some explaining to do, Mary.
What is everybody, ghostist or something? I mean, it's really not a big deal, is it? I just want to have a good time. I just want to go out dancing. And I just need a freaking ride home, okay?
Do you guys hear that?
Fair enough.
We heard it. Dave, tell us of any encounters you may have had at Resurrection Cemetery. Have you and Mary met before, or is this the first time after trying to see if you could reach out to her? Okay.
This is the first time. Yeah, I haven't had the honor tonight.
I don't get in front of cameras unless I'm like camera ready. And so, you probably can't catch me on one of those cameras because I look away, look away.
What have you encountered at Resurrection Cemetery, Dave?
No, to be honest, nothing. I've been around the area,
okay.
but I've never set up equipment or investigated there. I've been to, the bar, right down the street on Archer, but yeah, I've never investigated. I always wanted to, but I just never have.
Oh,
Fair enough.
And War Deer Entertainment actually posted something else very interesting about something in New Orleans. Can we pull that up again, or is it?
Yeah.
Gone?
Let me see if I can pull it up. No, it's still there. Here we go.
It's still there. The graveyards in New Orleans have a ghost woman who flag down cabs and then disappear once they reach their destination. At least Resurrection Mary is kind enough to say, hey, give me a ride, drop me off here, and you don't make the car disappear. So thank you, Mary, for not making anyone disappear. That's very classy.
And she gives the guys some dances, which is nice. She dances with them. At least she gives them a good time over at the ballroom.
Yeah,
why not?
Absolutely. And Chet's always has me covered on my nightly Bloody Mary, so I don't really need any drinks either. I'm not a big drinker,
Mary, so is there truth to what I shared from this article from the Chicago Reader? Is there anything you wish to debunk or correct as far as the official
correct the record? Correct the record.
Well, I think I remember Vince, but I mean, there've just been so many men. I can't even really place all of them. I mean, I guess Vince seemed really nice, and I mean, I think it's really sweet that he went to my mother's house. A little weird,
He was in love.
but I mean, can you blame him? I mean, right? But
ultimately, as War Deer Entertainment shared, it was a dead end relationship.
The relationship was dead end.
It was a dead end relationship.
Of course it was.
yeah, but I mean, I do like taking dances. Sometimes I just like to accompany people on car drives, because cars are really neat. And they're getting faster and faster all of the time. It's amazing. And now they have those lights in the cars, and they're just so beautiful. And so, I like the lights. And then I tend to come out more around the holiday season because there are so many more lights out, and I like it.
That's perfect.
We're very honored that you joined us here tonight for our very special Halloween show.
Well, wait, Mary, I have a question.
You invited me.
Mary, I have a question though, just for your thoughts. Your opinion on the Mothman. You see, what do you think?
On the Mothman? I don't even know what that is.
Let's get to that as one of the more final recent stories that
are you guys talking about that fuzzy winged thing that's been floating around the city?
Yeah, that guy, Pegleg. Once again, we meet again, my arch nemesis.
Dave, have you
The
followed anything
fellow.
about this particular phenomenon here in Chicago?
Yeah, I've been one of the guys that work with at the airport. We've been to some of the locations where supposedly it's been spotted. I haven't seen it myself.
Oh, I'm all over this. If you go on a spotting mission, I went down to the lakefront because there were some reports that it had been seen around. I want to say the aquarium or the planetarium, and I'm just fascinated by this. Maybe because it reminds me of winged bats, but this creature looks terrifying, and I think that looking at it and hearing some of the accounts, the skeptic in me says that perhaps it's one of these oversized flying foxes that may have migrated from the south of the country into the Midwest. I don't know, but let me share with our audience what the Mothman is about before we go into talking about it. And this comes to us from medium.com. What is the Mothman and why are people seeing it around Chicago? Is there any truth to this strange urban legend? Item. The mythical winged man creature was last sighted by a postal worker at Chicago O'Hare International Airport. Quote, I saw that this was not some person, but some red-eyed creature, and what appeared to be a coat were actually wings which had spread out as it turned to look at me, unquote. That was taken from a witness statement given to the Singular Fortean Society. The witness was a 17-year veteran of the U.S. Postal Service walking to her car after leaving work one night when she spotted a 7-foot-tall, red-eyed creature striding towards her. Reminds me of the Jeepers Creepers monster.
Yeah.
She stated that the figure then flew above her, emitting a screeching sound as she hurried to her car and drove away. The anonymous postal employee is not the first person to have reported seeing a tall winged man flying above. Sightings of this strange phenomenon have been documented all over the world. The Mothman is one of those enduring American myths that, while not proven to be true, cannot be disproven either. The first sighting was in a small West Virginia town in the 1960s. The latest reported sighting was from the postal worker in the fall of 2020 at Chicago O'Hare Airport. The Mothman has been spotted quite a bit around Chicago in the last few years. His first appearance in the Chicago area was in 2011. Since then, the sightings are mainly around the airport and Lake Michigan. When you compile the sightings together, a common theme takes shape. He's a tall figure, usually 6 to 10 feet, with red glowing eyes. Although sometimes his eyes have been reported as green, yellow, or orange, he is a humanoid figure that reminds witnesses of a bat or an owl.
Jerry, excuse me, Jerry.
Yes.
Jerry, Bessie tells me she knows that guy. She says his name is Marv.
Bessie better stay away from him because he might use those claws and pick her up and take her for a ride. She's the kind of ride she doesn't want. He's often seen flying near trees.
What kind of ride would that be?
It's a flying one, and you don't want it.
You'd know better than the rest of us, Mary. He's often seen flying near trees. Oh, now I'm in trouble. Sometimes he chases people and makes hissing or clicking noises. In the latest Chicago sighting, the USPS employee reported that he made a chirping sound and then a screeching sound as he flew towards and above her. Sometimes he screams, sometimes he stands and stares. Sometimes he simply flies overhead. He often leaves witnesses with an impending feeling of fear and doom, which seems a reasonable reaction. If I thought a winged humanoid man was flying straight for me, screeching with his red eyes glowing, I'd feel fear and doom as well. So here's my 1 degree of separation from a Mothman sighting. I have a very dear friend. If I didn't know the person whose story I'm going to recount, I would have said it was bullshit. But when she started crying after she told me this story, she's not as good. She's not an actress. I'll call her D. She lives out in the western suburbs. She claims that this creature, the type of which we're looking at, she looked out her bedroom once and saw it perched on the windowsill. Eyes looked at her. She froze in terror, and the thing was just staring at her, and she said it was the sense of utter impending doom, and she was frozen, and she was terrified. Then the thing screeched and flew off, and she ran from the room, and to this day, she doesn't know what she saw, and I think she told me this story about 4 years ago when I first was reading about the Mothman. And it's like, come on, Daisy, how do you know you didn't see an owl?
Saying a 6 to 10 foot figure was on her windowsill?
No, it wasn't that tall. No, but she said
okay.
something when I had shared a Mothman story on my Facebook, and she said she saw a creature that may have been like 3 to 4 feet, right? Which is why I started thinking, well, maybe it's these flying foxes that we hear about that kind of have the same kind of silhouette. But I'll tell you, the fact that she told me this, and she was convinced, and she was not making this up. She's never lied to me about anything else, and I doubt that she would. And I think the reason she told me the story is because she saw me post the story on my Facebook page. And I was kind of like making fun of it until I'm starting to take it seriously as I've investigated it further, or researched it further, and read of these other accounts along the lakefront. And then this one a few years ago at O'Hare. So, Dave, tell us what you know about the Mothman.
Well, I tell you, I keep an open mind on things, but it's hard for me to believe that's true. But I won't count it out. I'm just very skeptical. But there's been I think 3 to 4 sightings at the airport. I think last year was quite a few.
I think there was one in Lincoln Park also, near Oz Park. There was a reported sighting many years ago.
I think yes, I think you're right on that. And but the people that spotted it at the airport, I didn't interview myself, but they seem like they're credible witnesses. One of them was security, and his job was to check the exterior fence line, just to make sure there's no one wandering around there and anyone double parked, and that's his job. And he this was not far off of Manheim. There's Montrose Avenue, and you go.
Yeah, that's what I read.
South, yeah, and you go south towards Irving Park there, and if I remember the story correctly, he was checking that fence line, and there's this like little, it's overgrown, but this little creek, but it's all overgrown, really maybe like 10, 11 feet tall, whatever it is, weeds and plant life, and he saw something really large. He thought it was just maybe a trucker using the bathroom, in the brush there. And supposedly he went up to it, hit it with a light, and it was a really tall creature like that, and spread its wings and disappeared. And there was another, it was a trucker towards South Access. It's like towards York Road and Irving Park. There's actually it's not that far from the little cemetery that's still there, Rust Haven. But anyway, the trucker was smoking a cigarette. He's at the dock there. I've been there several times looking for the Mothman. I haven't spotted it yet, but
it seems like this would be a tough one to catch, just because it's not like the Mothman's going to, if it's flying around, it's not going to just stay at O'Hare. Although it is interesting that there have been so many sightings at that location. You just wonder if it has to do with the geography or the landscape there. I don't know. I mean,
look at all the construction going on, all the tunnels, all the land that's disrupted from all the construction going on there now with the new terminals and all the digging going on.
Yeah,
maybe they disrupted something, and he was hanging around there.
We usually go an hour, and I'm in no rush to go. If anybody has to leave, I understand, but I'd like to hear more, perhaps now that I've kind of helped guided the show into an overview of paranormal activities in the Chicago area. If any of our other guests, Kit or Resurrection Mary, perhaps channeling through, can channel something that came from our colleague Kira in regards to any personal supernatural experiences they may have had or believe they may have encountered.
Well, I have one story in particular of a paranormal story. It's a long time ago, and again, I was a young kid at the time, so I'll tell my story. My one story of paranormal activity. My family, we own some property out there in Michigan City, Indiana. Now, I'm not the owner. My grandpa and a few of my other relatives, they own it, but it was passed down to him from my great-grandfather. Now, the thing is, interesting enough, before my great-grandfather passed away, I was like the last baby he held. So I was, I believe, maybe 3, maybe 5 years old. I have to ask my mom about the age at this time. But, Resurrection Mary. You're laughing in the background.
Check out the screen, Kit.
Yes, I know. Kit was recently haunted by Bob Sager's beard.
Get out.
Ah,
Oh, that was hilarious.
And now Pegleg is.
Am I
I
frozen
see.
again?
I see how it is.
Continue, Kit. Continue.
I see how it is. So the thing is, when we were visiting our family's property, my mother and my grandfather were working, like clearing out the barn. We were bringing in some relatives. We're gonna have like a little party out there in the farm. All the family was gonna show up, and of course, me being a little kid, I was just playing by the house. And the thing is, I look at the corner of my eye, and I see this apparition, this walking person, go inside the house, in and out, fading in and out, walk inside the house. My mother then comes to me and says, "Kid, is everything okay?" And I said, "Well, a man walked into the house." And, I said this to her, and she will account for this story that's what I said to her. Like, a man walked inside the house. Now, me being a little kid, I couldn't reach any of the drawers. I couldn't open up any of the cabinets. But when she walked in, everything was open. All the drawers were open. Everything was everything was open. And the thing is, my great-grandfather, he used to do that. He would forget to close the cabinet doors. He would forget to close the drawers. He would forget to close everything. He would do that all the time. And so, who knows what happened? But all I know is I did not have the strength or the ability to reach up to certain spaces to even do that or pull that all off. And that's my only experience with a ghost. My great-grandfather just decided maybe to pull a prank on everybody. And I just said, yeah, that's him. So there we go.
Mary, anything that, aside from being a paranormal activity, any paranormal experiences that you may have encountered yourself?
Yeah. So.
No, Bessie, stop chewing on that cord. That's why my camera's not working. Sorry, Mary.
You tell Bessie. Get it under control, okay? Yeah, so I had a few paranormal experiences. It was in a very specific house that my family and I lived in when I was younger, in Iowa.
War Deer Entertainment, I feel for you. Continue, Mary. I can relate.
Me too. Especially the crushing good looks. There were a few experiences actually from several of my family members and friends in this particular house. And since leaving that house, we really haven't had any experiences. So the very first experience was from my brother. He was in the basement of our home where he lived, and everybody else lived upstairs. And he was going to brush his teeth, and he walks by the stairs that go to the upstairs to get to his bathroom. And on the stairs is a young girl with dark hair. And he goes into the bathroom, and he remembers seeing the girl with the dark hair on the stairs, and he thinks, why is my sister awake right now? It's so late. It's like, I'm going to go yell at her, because my brother loved hating on me. And so he came back to yell at me to go to bed. Little girl was gone. So that was the first one. Second account was at my birthday party. And we were playing hide and seek, all my friends. And we were in the basement and running around, hiding, doing all the things. And my friend Christina was it. And I was sneaking up the stairs, because I saw her going around to the back of the stairs, and then she let out this blood-curdling scream, and everybody just came, and she was underneath the stairs, frightened, just white as a ghost, is what I was going to say, and she said, I saw Kira walk under here, giving away who I am. I saw Kira walk under the stairs.
I think that the secret's out, Kira. And you've done such a great job when I invited you to come on tonight. as Resurrection Mary. I'm like,
skills
there's
are incredible.
only one person who can do this, and it's Kira.
And she's like, I saw Kira walk under the stairs, and then there was nobody there. And I know that I wasn't walking under the stairs because I was walking up the stairs. So there was that. There was the curious faucet that went on without anybody being there. And then my mom went to see a psychic around the same time that we lived in this house. I was a military brat, by the way, so we only lived in a house like 4 years or so. And then we would move, and my mom went to a psychic during this time, and the psychic said, "Oh, there's actually like there's an entity with you, and it's a young, dark-haired girl."
Interesting.
Did you guys find out any more history of that particular house, or dig into it? Not beyond that.
I mean, I was so young at the time, but yeah. So that is my paranormal experience.
Aside from the experiences of my cats in the kitchen, thinking maybe my grandmother is still, her spirit is still with me. I don't know if I'd call this a paranormal experience or an out-of-body experience, but have any of you heard of the phenomena called night terrors, where your body is asleep, but you're awake and you're conscious and you're freaking out because you cannot move your body even though you're awake? You guys heard of this phenomenon?
I've heard of it. I've never experienced it.
So
myself.
this has happened to me a couple times, enough that I can remember it. And the thing about this phenomenon is, you are conscious and you're awake. It's just your body is unresponsive. And it's terrifying because you think you're dead, because you're looking around and you're prone in your bed looking up. And at one of my old places I lived in over near Lincoln Square over on Leland, I woke up, or I was going through this phenomenon, and I looked towards my door, and there was this black hooded silhouette that was just there, right? And it was like my friend D told me about the Mothman. It just dread, terror, didn't do anything. It was just there watching me, seemingly, I don't know, enjoying the fact that I was unresponsive and I couldn't move. I was completely, absolutely helpless. And, I know we always go through different states with REM when we're sleeping. I sometimes attribute it to, was I dreaming? Was it just a dream? No, because I've had experiences in the past where I knew I was awake, but my body wasn't. But that was the only time that I feel like on another plane I sensed something that I normally wouldn't see in our regular day-to-day existence. And this particular encounter just always stayed with me, because it wasn't until I literally was able to shake my body awake that I looked towards the doorway and it was gone. Now, it could have been a dream. I don't think it was, though. I mean, again, I'm the type of person who wants to pick a story apart and say, well, could it have been this, could it have been that? Because it's the closest I've ever had to an experience that I can perhaps define as supernatural or sensing something that's not of this world. That's the closest I've got to, and it's not even so much about the night terror of my body not responding, and more about sensing something there while I was in that state that I really feel was physically there, and I was able to perceive it while I was awake, but my body wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the sleep paralysis. Yeah, that's that happened to me a few times after investigations.
Oh,
I handled, well, there's this one case I never handled that stuck with me, and it almost made me give everything up.
Really quickly, interesting comment from the chat. I worked with a guy who experienced it, said he'd see a dark figure often when it happened. So I guess my particular experience is not unique. Maybe there is a sense of like, we're in that state, body is asleep, but we're awake, and we have that extra perception.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, in some cases, I think, it's sleep paralysis, but I think there's some legit cases out there where something's going on that could be paranormal. But,
absolutely. Anybody in the live chat? Normally, we'd love to, and we've been popping comments up. I don't know if anybody has any really interesting experience to share, or has something similar to what we've been talking about here. I think Pegleg left us, and we lost Matt also. He may have had a bad connection there. I feel bad because
he sent me a text message saying it kept on looping on him, looping over and over, that he must have had a bad connection.
Oh, Pegleg is back. Pegleg,
my arch nemesis.
Any supernatural now, Pegleg, on a serious note, we're absolving you of the Great Chicago Fire right now.
Oh, how magnanimous of you to absolve me of anything that I did not do.
Have you personally, in all seriousness, okay, channeling the body that is hosting you right now, have you had any personal supernatural experiences that you can share with us?
I'm afraid, Jerry, that after 150 years, my memory's not as good as it used to be.
He's not going to play.
The last time
he's not going to break character.
The last time I think I remember having something similar to night terrors was I think it was 1872. And I was having a lot of trouble sleeping.
You said 1872?
Yes.
All right. He's not taking it seriously.
That was a year after a thing that happened that I did not do.
Okay. I'm moving to the live chat. Laney, where were you tonight? Laney, our colleague at Hardlands Media and Civically Minded Chicago and Civically Minded Hardlands Media, performed a household exorcism. I don't know if Laney's on camera that I can send her a link. Actually, I'm going to send her a link. And I don't know. Hey, Laney, if I send you a link, are you able to pop in or just share that particular anecdote? I'll wait till she responds in the chat.
All I know is I'm going to quote Art and saying Pegleg is responsible for many ghosts in Chicago. Trying to find chocolate milk. Shame on you, Pegleg. Shame.
Excuse me, I was not trying to find chocolate milk. I invented the chocolate milk cow. She is right here. Her name is Bessie. You can address her directly, Cabello.
You know, Pegleg, you burnt this city to the ground. You must be held accountable for your crimes. But since you were pardoned by Jerry, I'll let this pass just this one time. For Halloween.
Okay, guys. Laney, I think her yes may have been that she can come on, and maybe I'm misinterpreting that. Laney, I'm going to send you a link through Slack, and if you're able to jump on and share the household exorcism story as we kind of get to the tail end of the show here. And of course, my Slack is not responding now. Wait a minute.
Naturally.
Clear cache, and reload.
Jerry, I got a pretty good story that a case I never handled, but talking about demonic earlier, this is probably the closest I ever got to demonic. It almost made me give everything up. But it's a legit client. I'm not. He's a professional city employee, but I'm not going to say his field. But she called me up. They did construction in the house. Ever since they did construction, rebuilt the house, it stirred up something. Well, he started having night terrors, screaming bloody murder, waking up like you see in the movies, and they won't stop. So he saw doctors, sleep studies. They can't find anything wrong with him. When he goes to work with his field and he sleeps where he's working, doesn't have it, only when he's at the house. And so he wanted no part of it, but because he's embarrassed and doesn't want it to leak out. So she was going to do it behind his back when he's at work, overnight. Anyway, so I'm working my side job. I'm getting off, and she's telling me these stories. She starts playing these recordings of him screaming like he's being attacked, raped. I mean, it was. I tell you, it was chilling. It was. It really was just listening to it. So once I pulled him into my driveway, I'm standing in the pitch dark. It's about 11:30 at night. I didn't want to go in and wake up my wife and daughter. They're sleeping. Plus, I wanted to have a good signal, so I stayed outside on my driveway. And I tell you, it still shakes me up. It still bothers me on what this was, but something came through the phone lines. If you could picture the the Exorcist type voice, that that
Yeah.
type of voice that's in the
Speaking-
Conjuring or the Exorcist. It's coming
Speaking
through
of
the phone
demonic,
line.
speaking of demonic possessions, as you continue, I want to really quickly. I don't want to keep her waiting too long in the green room here. Our colleague Lainey Peterson.
Hey.
I'm so glad you joined us. I want Dave to finish his story, but I wanted to bring you in. Lainey, I didn't want you to think that I didn't see you down there. So, Dave,
Sure.
I'm sorry to have interrupted, but I wanted to let you finish that and then have Lainey share her story with us.
Okay. Yeah, and so I'm in the middle of the driveway, and she's talking on the phone, and she goes, "Dave, did you hear? I hear a woman's voice moaning my husband's name, and I heard something, but over the phone, she's playing it. She's on her house phone and playing it on her cell phone. It's kind of hard to hear." I said, "I hear something, but I can't make it out." And then this voice starts coming in, this demonic and this laugh. I'll never forget as long as I live. This demonic sounding laugh. And then I got mad at first. I thought she was playing a joke on me. So I'm like, "Do you think this is funny, wasting my time like this?" And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "You don't hear this voice coming through this phone?" She goes, "No, I hear your phone going in and out, but I don't hear the voice." And then it started talking over her. So now I know it's not her. And now it starts moaning her husband's name in that voice, And then it starts moaning my name, David, in that type of voice. And I'm in shock. This never happened to me before. So my jaws hit the ground. I'm standing there in shock in the pitch darkness. And then after it moans my name, the lines went dead. And then I'm starting to get choked. I'm standing in my driveway. It's like two fingers pushing in my windpipe. I can't breathe. And I'm like starting to freak out. I'm like, what the hell to do? So the only thing I could think of, I left my window open in my car, which I was leaning against. I grabbed my cross off the rearview mirror and put it on. And thank God I was able to breathe again. And then she calls me up a minute or two later. She goes, "Dave, I'm so sorry. My home phone's broken. I had to call you back on my cell phone." And then this voice a minute later comes back, and this laugh, man, this hideous laugh. I could never get her address. I could never set a date to go over there. It was blocking us from talking. And to this day, I wonder, I'm like, what was that? Whatever it was so powerful. And I think this is the first case that could have been possibly demonic that I would have handled. And maybe, it scared her. It scared me. I wonder to this day, if I took that case, what would have happened? It's something I would want to document and show that it's out there. But man, that I still can't believe it. It still shakes me up. I had nightmares for 2 days. And it bothered me so much. I had to see if this was even possible. So I had to do a lot of contact other investigators and more people with experience than me at the time. And I just wonder what would have happened if I took that case.
It leaves one that wants to experience something like myself. Maybe I don't want to experience something, because when the potential to experience something that terrifying ends up happening, maybe things are just better left unexperienced.
It's rare, though. It doesn't happen that often. Most cases.
No, I know. Well, throughout our lifetimes, throughout whatever span of your lifetime is, I've had the two potential experiences: the night terrors and wondering what the hell my cats are meowing to in the kitchen at night, since they're not supposed to, meow to themselves. Now we have Bishop Lainey the Exorcist, who has performed an exorcism. And Dave, Lainey is one of our colleagues and commentators here at Hardlands Media, and she also joins me on Chicago Corner. Just a quick little introduction. Lainey, I'm so glad you could jump in tonight and join us.
Glad. I was just hanging around tonight, and well, here I am in my haunted office.
In your haunted office. So tell us what you have to share in this paranormal landscape of Halloween 2021 haunted Chicago.
Well, the funny thing is that many people know that I'm bivocational clergy, which means I work a secular job, but I'm also a clergy person. Yes, I did go to seminary and did all that, but we didn't learn how to do exorcisms in seminary because mainline Protestant seminaries don't go for that sort of thing. So we have to, those of us who are going to do this have to learn this on our own. I will mention that the Roman Catholic Church has its own separate process, which I will tell you about later on. But in any case, I had a friend who had a series of demonic attacks, a demonic oppression going on for a long time in his home. The situation, in my opinion, could have been resolved by him moving, but he wasn't going to do that. So after many people attempted to do exorcisms, he brought in a guy who specialized in it. The guy said, this is just too entrenched. I can't do anything about it. Flew me out to where he lived and, went through, evaluated the place and kind of sensed where the worst of the oppression was. Got into my, clerical vestments, had my holy water, and decided to go after it using a very specific rite of exorcism. Interesting listening to Dave earlier. One of the things that happened is it went through the throat. And I felt this, going right at the throat. And it was just fascinating just listening to Dave say that, because that's, I went out afterwards and talked to the other guy who did this sort of thing. And he said, yeah, that's a very kind of typical reaction. So I went for the throat. It was very oppressive, but I had a particular rite that I was able to do. I was able to clear it according to both the homeowner and the guy who came in afterwards to try and see what was going on. And it did clear out the problem. But it was not terribly dramatic, but it was extremely oppressive. And that was the whole thing. I mean, there was a long-standing history in that house of music going on and off. There was, the usual stuff that you hear about, but it was very entrenched in that
poltergeist shenanigans.
Yeah, it was, and there was a lot that was there. So that was my experience with it. I was able to do some good. I got a steak dinner and a couple Manhattans out of it. So that was kind of cool.
Doesn't that make you feel good helping people?
It absolutely does.
Being able to help people like that. Yeah.
Able to help people
find answers.
And a friend that was, who was suffering terribly. He did not want to move out of his home. And this was the way to deal with it. So it's been important to do with that. And, it's a lot of, sometimes you do encounter this. And I think, the folks were talking a little bit earlier, there are situations in which a person really just needs an exterminator because they've got, rodents or something like that. But there are also going to be situations where there's something there that the person, does need to be dealt with. But the other thing to keep in mind is what a lot of people need is attention. There's something going on that's out of their control. And they need somebody to pay attention to them. And that alone, I think, can be very important for people who are, whatever the cause of it is, to have somebody pay them attention and not just brush them off. It's a very important part of this work.
Yeah, agreed. And
now, I wanted to point out, that the it was interesting, the Roman Catholic Church and allegedly the Episcopal Church have their own separate processes for training exorcists. And the processes are actually quite secret. I got information from somebody, the Catholic seminarian, who got this from a professor of theology, and neither one was exactly sure. But apparently in the Roman Catholic Church, they don't want to make a big deal out of exorcism. So what they do is it's a very secretive process, that a person who would be considered for exorcist position would be a priest, someone who was a parish priest for at least 10 years, had a great deal of pastoral skill, who was also physically strong. And what they'll do is they identify this guy and they'll start a process that seems like they're considering him for the episcopacy. And so they'll start, vetting him and talking to people. And then when they think that they've got the right guy, they send him an invitation to come to Rome for training. Now that's the story. And that, that's the story that they have. But I kind of gives you kind of an idea of just how seriously churches who do have exorcists tend to take this work.
Well, isn't the Rosemary's Baby, I believe, was inspired by a historical event at Hull House, I think? The idea of a demon baby being born.
The demon baby. Yeah.
I should have boned up on this because I know that there's a lot of supernatural legends regarding Hull House down. I think it's past Roosevelt Road. If anybody has any perspective on that, it kind of
I'm drawing a blank.
lends the conversation about. exorcisms. Lainey, are you familiar at all with that history?
I've not heard that history, but it wouldn't necessarily be surprising, something like that. But I have not heard that history.
There are a lot of places online to hunt up Chicago ghost stories and legends, as we've kind of just scratched the surface tonight regarding some of the more well-known ones, and also having the opportunity to invite Dave on, who is a professional paranormal investigator that convinces me that although we don't have all the answers, there is definitely evidence there lending to the fact that there's things happening beyond our understanding, that all we can do is continue to try to find answers, do more investigating, and find understanding.
I will say this. I don't know Jerry, if you remember these stories, those of you who grew up in the Chicago area. I grew up in the northwest suburbs, and the big rumors were about Cuba Road and Rainbow Road from back in the day, that there were haunted, that one of them had a satanic church, one of them had a guy with a camel, but there was like a story that down on Cuba Road that there was had been a mental institution, that they let the inmates out at night, and then there was ghosts all over the place. And some friends said that they actually drove all the way down. There was this huge mansion there. They concluded that the owners had started the rumors to keep people away from the mansion. But I remember part of my history, there was certainly Resurrection Mary, but there was also Cuba Road and Rainbow Road that were supposed to have paranormal activity and were haunted and that sort of thing.
I think it led right to a cemetery. I'm trying to think of the name of the cemetery, but there was stuff about phantom cars and all kind of stuff with the Cuba Road.
Yeah.
And remember, everybody, when all else fails.
And Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, Chicago guys.
In the middle of the night.
Hey, Dan Aykroyd's a big believer.
You or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
Oh, I love Bill Murray.
Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Ghostbusters. Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you. Dan Aykroyd's a big believer in the phenomenon.
Well, Dan, I actually was at the Ghostbuster Firehouse. I was actually there like a while back, like in 2015. I saw the Ghostbuster Firehouse. It looks just like how it is in the movies.
I understand that Dan has actually probably hung out with some paranormal investigators also. Well, the whole conception of Ghostbusters had to do with Dan's beliefs in the paranormal and the supernatural, although of course they were presenting it from a from a comedic viewpoint. Can we hear that?
Yes.
Can we hear that? Okay, good. All right. That's what inspired Ghostbusters, which I think was really cool. All right, ladies.
Into the UFOs too.
Oh, UFOs! That's a whole other area I'd love to go into.
Believer in that.
Yeah. And there've been sightings here in Chicago too.
If I can, before we end things, I would like to actually end this a little bit with again the spirit of Halloween, if I can.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. None other than from my favorite movie. You heard it before at the beginning of the show, but I'll gladly do it again. Do I need a reason? Mr. Cuffer was right, I do love a good joke, and this is the best joke ever. A joke on the children. But there's a better reason. You don't know really much about Halloween. You thought no further than a strange custom of having your children wear masks and go out begging for candy. It was the start of our year in our old Celtic lands, and we'd be waiting in our houses of wattle and clay. The barriers would be down, you see, between the real and the unreal, and the dead might be looking in to sit by our fires of turf. Halloween, the festival of Samhain, the last great one took place 3,000 years ago, and the hills ran red with the blood of animals and children. It was part of our world, our craft. To us, it was a way of controlling our environment. It's not so different now. It's time again. In the end, we don't decide these things. The planets do. They're in alignment again, and it's time again. The world's going to change tonight, my friends, and I'm glad you'll be able to watch it. And above all else, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you,
Thank you
kid.
for that. Thank you
I
for
have
that.
a dance hall to get to, everybody.
I think Resurrection Mary's dead tired.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
dancing
Jerry.
tonight, though, regardless of how tired I am.
Hey,
I'm
Jerry.
Yes, Pegleg.
Jerry, we totally forgot that that this show is brought to you by
Uh-oh. Yes.
Flavor Improving Mugs. The mugs that improve flavor. These
Chicago
are
Corner.
available in the
Sounds
merch
supernatural to me.
shop today, and they are flavor
Down in the
improving.
description links, you can click through to the Redbubble store.
The only mugs that improve flavor are flavor improving mugs.
I could see the energy around that mug.
I want to thank Pegleg for bringing that up, and I also want to thank good friend of the show, E. Heller, for, I was going to call him E. Sullivan, because I think that Pegleg is now regularly possessing E. Heller. But I want to thank E. Heller for all the great work he's done in our Redbubble store with the merch to makes great gifts for the upcoming holidays, everybody. Also, so just to kind of recap really quickly, if you don't know who I am, I'm Carl Kolchak, the Night Stalker. And you can watch the only season of the Night Stalker on MeTV. They are not a host, or I'm sorry, they're not a sponsor, but if you want to understand why I was dressed this way tonight, check out the cult 70s TV show, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, rerunning on MeTV, I think every Saturday night. It's a great show, and it's even more so because it all takes place in Chicago. I want to thank our panel tonight. We had a really good time. It took some time to plan. It really came together when I was able to reach out to Dave and get all this amazing information and evidence that he had to share to look at hauntings and legends in Chicago from a more serious perspective. So everybody who participated tonight, I want to thank you very much. I want to tell everybody in Chicago, Halloween weekend is here. There's all kinds of great stuff to do going into the weekend. I would recommend people go over to Block Club Chicago to find stuff in their neighborhoods. And whatever you do, ladies and gentlemen, always, always remember, be safe, watch out for each other, be vigilant, and remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner.
Nice.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
And from our panel, everyone, be safe.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.